everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. I want to take a few minutes here to talk about Doge. A lot of people are getting really bitter about Doge because it's done nothing for months. And it gone up a lot and just kind of went down here. That's exactly how higher highs and higher low type situations are supposed to get you all frustrated. This is still a bull trend until proven otherwise. This is still a cup and this is still a handle until proven otherwise. In general, whenever stock goes from cycle high to cycle low and it wants to do a trend reversal, it hits a 0.786 fib over here. If it doesn't push through, which I really don't expect things to push through the first time, usually you need a couple tries before pushing through this very, very important fib level here. And because we end up getting rejected there, the next logical area for it to do is to come back down to try and find some support. Sometimes it finds support at 0.618, sometimes it goes to 0.5, sometimes it goes all the way down to 0.382. In the case of Dogecoin, it decided to go all the way down to 0.382, which is nothing unusual about it because this is actually a pretty important zone of this nice Adam and Eve double bottom over here, and we simply just push through and we're back testing that horizontal area. There's really nothing bearish about this, but people get extremely frustrated and get extremely scared because things were in a downtrend over the last few months and they don't really remember what happened over the last year or two because they don't care. The trend is your friend and the trend is bullish. Why do we have a hard time breaking above all these different resistance up here above? Well, because we're still underneath a pretty thick Ichimoku cloud. We had a little bit of a false breakout here on the monthly and we ended up having to come back down and grab some liquidity, find some solid footing here before pushing up here again. We got rejected here on the Ichimoku cloud here once and twice. I think the third time is going to be the charm. Is it going to be pushing up into the cloud and go up higher? Or is it going to be more sideways price action and get into the cloud and go higher? I don't know, but if the issue, well not issue, but if the trend here is your friend, if it's supporting higher highs and higher lows, there's really not much to get concerned about in terms of that. I also look at the 20-month moving average. Sometimes it can wick underneath of that, right? It did that over here, got everybody all scared. It looks like it was going to drop underneath the 20-month moving average. It is positively sloping right now. Right now, the 20-month moving average is 17 cents and 36.9 fractions. And currently prices underneath of that. It can get you all scared and whatnot. But honestly, the way I see it is that if you have a 20-month moving average that is upsloping, most likely this is just going to be a wick. So I'm not really that concerned about it, especially if you just either transforming higher highs and higher lows. You can see the same thing happen. Sometimes you even get close underneath the 20-month moving average and you still end up having a big reversal if the 20-month moving average is upward sloping, right? That's exactly kind of what's happening right now. With that said as well, this is a monthly chart, right? The last 6 months candle is all inside of this big green candle over here. So you're talking about consolidation with 6 inside candles forming a lot of energy here. The breakout, if we don't end up breaking down, which end up not breaking down here, right? Back in April, we did not break down, found support here in 20-month moving average. If we don't break down below this range, then it's going to gravitate back up to the top of the range. And usually with these kind of inside candles, once it breaks out of range, it will have more of a continuation of the primary trend. I just told you what the primary trend is. Higher highs, higher lows. The primary trend is up. Whenever it's done doing this consolidation over here, it's going to go up. When is that going to be? I don't know. But we're back testing some support level down here below. The market makers are giving us more time to buy. I don't know why that is, but I'm going to keep on taking advantage of this situation here while the sentiment is extremely, extremely poor. If you also look at the weekly here, you can also see that you have 6 inside candles over here too. After this kind of inverted head and shoulder pattern over here, you have basically 6 inside candles, a little bit outside here, but that's fine, right? But you're talking about having to spend 6 weeks here and not really able to reverse this weekly green candle over here. So that tells me that there is not much bearish energy necessarily left anymore. And I think we're closer to the bottom than the top. Now, if I end up looking at Doge here on Coinbase and I pull up the volume here, you can also see that there is no selling volume here at all. Like, nobody is really interested in selling, and that's not just Coinbase. If you also look at another major currency exchange, which is Binance, you can also see that there's really no selling volume. Nobody wants to sell Dogecoin here. The selling volume is essentially non-existent. Even this big giant downtrend here on Coinbase and Binance, there is also no selling volume anymore. I think that the sellers are exhausted. And even with the push up here, I think we're basically getting back down closer to the 0.382 FIB level over here. I think this is probably going to hold. I think the 20-month moving average most likely is also going to hold by the end of the month. I think that all this shenanigans in selling on low volume can easily be reversible once some volume comes in, right? Low selling volume over here, right? Reversal once volume comes in. Low selling volume over here, right? Reversal once volume comes in. I think we're just waiting for some volume to come in, and this trend can get reversed very, very, very quickly. Other things to look at too would be momentum indicators. A lot of people are worried about this downtrend here for days. When is it going to end? First of all, you actually have a tweezer bottom here on the daily, which is promising. The other thing to look at is if you look at the RSI here and look for any bullish divergence, you can see how on the daily, whenever you start building up bullish divergence, is when price usually like to reverse here. Last time when you have some bullish divergence was right here, and the other time before that was, well, actually it was right around here. This is the bullish divergence that I've spotted here, right? And you can see that whenever price goes down, RSI goes up, and next thing you know, that was the local bottom right there. You can see price go down and RSI goes up. Next thing you know, that's a local bottom right there. What's happening right now? Price gone down and the RSI is going up. I think that we might be experiencing a trend change here relatively soon, and I like where we're at right now. A lot of things are telling me that I think Dogecoin is going to do very well moving forward. It's just doing its necessary consolidation to complete the cup and handle formation before going up higher. I am not really that concerned about Dogecoin, and I'm still going to try to buy whenever I have an opportunity to do so. Right? Now, I did mention that it did get rejected here at the 0.786, right? If we end up pushing through back above, if we end up breaking about 0.5, 0.618 and get back to 0.786, which I think we will once some volume comes in, then some of the higher targets up above here, $1.60, $2.26, and $4.13, all of these are possibility for Dogecoin, right? That is from the Binance map here. Now, if you look at the overall, data from other exchanges combined together, sometimes you get a little bit of a different set of numbers, but I can see $1.50, $2.27, and $3.94 here are possible targets. What happened during the last cycle, you might ask? Well, the last cycle went ballistic. I don't think that we're going to end up having something like that happening again, because it went beyond the 1.618. It went to ultimately to the 2.272, which is just ridiculous, right? That's a huge gain it had. And guess what? Came back down to the cycle, and last time looks like 1.414 here was a pretty strong zone of resistance here, and we basically just back tested that as support, and it was holding. And on top of that, we also push up, and we also back tested 1.618 over here. And right now we are trying to get back to the 2.272, unable to push through, and then we come back, we try to push back about the 2 here. But you see how these levels here mean something. Higher highs, higher lows, breakthrough, back test. None of these things are bearish. I don't think we're going to end up getting 2.272 here in this cycle, because I think that $23 Doge is insane. I don't think that Doge is going to end up becoming, like anything like $3 trillion market cap. I think that's insane. Could it become a quarter or half a $1 trillion market cap with the way that things are going right now, with the fact that they keep printing money, with the fact that it's forming higher highs and higher lows? I'm not going to rule that out. I'm just not going to rule that out. This is the Doge market cap, and I think some of these targets up here are possible this cycle. And it's insane to think about, but it's something to think about. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening to this video. Have a good one. Bye.